Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm just going to walk you through a quick video on education in Canada. Now, for whatever reason, some people are either forgetting their Civics 101 or just don't truly understand or grasp basically the issues of provincial versus federal powers. That's why we have the Constitution. In a roundabout way, the Constitution sets up both federal and provincial powers. Now, this particular case, education is the responsibility of the provinces and territories. End of story. They do get some funding, and I'll walk you through that, but in general, they're responsible for education. Now, what the federal government does to help the provinces out, we've seen this already with the health transfer, they actually provide what they call a Canadian social transfer. And basically what this is to do is to support children. So that's daycare, that's post-secondary school education, and other types of social programs. Now, I'm going to focus mostly on post-secondary school education because that's the distinction where people are lost in terms of the responsibility. The federal government provides support to the colleges, the community colleges, the university, and specific trade schools that qualify for funding. They provide that as part of their mandate, and that money gets channeled down to the provinces. So let's look at basically what's happened here. Now, when Stephen Harper took office, which was in 2006-2007, he basically honored the agreement between the provinces on how they're going to do the transfers for the CST. Now, what you're going to see happen since around 2009 to 2010, the escalator has been about 3%. So he's provided about 3% funding increases each year. So when you hear comments that Harper's cut education, he hasn't cut education money. What he's done is he continues to provide funding to the province at that 3% rate. And that's what you're seeing there. Now, what happens then is the money goes into a bucket into the provinces. I'm just using Ontario as an example. If you look at Ontario's financial statements, and I pulled this down from the last financial statements they just produced, they spent about almost $6 billion on post-secondary school education. Now, look at the growth rate. Now, the change between the previous year to the current year is about 2.7%. They actually are getting 3% additional funding. So there's a difference, a small percentage difference. So they actually kept $18 million of the post-secondary school budget from allowing the money that the federal government gave them. Now, this is just Ontario. So what you need to kind of ask yourself is you need to go to the financial statements of the government and look at what's changed in terms of the percentages and how the government has starved the system for their own ways. Ontario is a good example because they decided they wanted to build the size of government up, and they put more emphasis on their bureaucracy versus really looking at expense line management properly. The other point I wanted to show you too as well, in Ontario's case, they spend about $23.2 billion on education. Now, a bulk of that, a good chunk of that, and I think it's somewhere between 70-80% of that, is related to instruction. So in education, if we increase teachers' pay faster than inflation or revenue is growing, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to have pressure on school budgets. Those school budgets are paid by both the provinces and property taxes. That has nothing to do with Stephen Harper. So people need to understand that and start going out and looking at some of the financial statements on education. Both the government's provincial government in terms of post-secondary school, and also looking at basically secondary and elementary school funding by looking at the school boards. That's my concern here throughout this election campaign, is people see numbers and they're too quick to blame Stephen Harper on a lot of things without really truly looking at the facts.